Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello and welcome to Business Innovators Radio. I'm Luana Ribeira, and with me today I have mental health and wellbeing coach Sue Orosa, and she's going to be talking about how to develop conscious living habits for business growth. Such an important topic. Welcome, Sue.
Hi, Luana. Thank you for inviting me in. Hello.
Absolutely brilliant to have you here. So, where did it all begin, Sue? What got you interested in all of this? What was your journey?
So I reckon that, well, for me, personal growth, personal development, self-awareness, it's always been a big feature in my life, you know, from supporting other people to reach their potential, to be the best they can, to then offering myself those things. Eventually that ended up in me doing some counselling training after I'd done Reiki training and other types of stuff as well.
So what was your life like before you did the training and after? Like, you know, what was the difference that training made?
So before then, I guess I went through periods of life where I felt a little bit lost, you know, career-wise. I'd experienced some relationship losses, and I would be drawn to jobs that, you know, they weren't horrific or anything, but and some of them I quite enjoyed, but they weren't kind of leading me anywhere. I hadn't found really my purpose or meaning.
I feel that one.
Yeah. So a lot of us go through that, don't we? And just various different things happened in my life that kind of were turning points. One of them being when a friend said, why don't we go to a Reiki weekend workshop? I didn't even know what Reiki was. And I went, yeah, okay, let's go. And from there, something happened, which it was such a calming, beautiful experience that it was quite healing. And from that, I guess, stuff came up, as they say, for me to start looking at. To develop my self-awareness and who I was, and start thinking about me and what direction did I want to go in, and also getting rid of those layers that we use to defend ourselves against the world, where we're not really being truly ourselves. So all that came together through the Reiki, and then, as I say, doing the counselling qualifications, and then later on the coaching. So it's been really a journey of uncovering who I am. You know, it's kind of discovering who my authentic self is. Because then with all of that, you know, now I'm doing what I love, what I absolutely love.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. So before we move on to developing conscious living habits, let's define that. So how would you define what conscious living habits are?
So to live consciously and have those habits, for me, means being able to live your truth and speak your truth. So there's that word again about being authentic. We hear a lot about that. You know, what does it mean? It means not hiding behind a life that doesn't feel right for you anymore, not numbing ourselves with doing too much and doing too much for other people, you know, self-sabotaging ourselves, self-procrastination, all of those things that I guess most of us are familiar with anyway.
Oh, you're speaking to me here.
It's an ongoing thing, isn't it? Let's be real. You know, I think all of us go in and out of that. So it's, I guess, developing a mindset around what are our triggers? How do we know that we're going into a phase of self-sabotage again? So the more we know about ourselves, the better we're able to nip those bad habits in the bud. But also alongside that is, sorry, go on. Were you going to say something?
No, you carry on. I'll come back to it.
There's a lot around mindset and beliefs, You might have to guide me with a couple of questions, because this is such a huge subject, and I love it so much that I could just easily go off on a tangent.
Feel free.
So the habits that we develop are, informed by how, what we believe about ourselves, and those beliefs are informed very much by unconscious ideas and values that we absorbed as children growing up, the unconscious stuff, that then gets played out as an adult without us realizing. So they become the shoulds of our life. I should do this, I should do that.
Yes. And how do people know? How do people know if they are going into self-sabotage, or if what's coming into their head is real? I mean, I know personally I've had instances in the past where I feel like I'm doing really well with something, and all of a sudden I've just got bored of that thing, and then I've moved on to another shiny object. Now, how if somebody else has done that, I think that's a popular one, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if somebody is like that, or if they're starting to go into a different form of self-sabotage, how do they know if it is self-sabotage, or if they are genuinely being called to do something different?
Well, that's a very good question. And I guess the more we ask ourselves that question and sit with that, the more likely we are to get the answers. So rather than blindly or unconsciously moving from that one shiny object to another, because it's great fun, I know because I've done it, quite good at it, is to slow down and just notice. And that's where the self-awareness comes in, to slow down, have that habit every day, sitting with yourself, even if it's just a few minutes, to breathe and to let yourself settle into the day, arrive, whatever it is, even if it's with music or no music or a walk in the park, whatever it is. So what's going on for me? A lot of people find journaling a good habit to get into. So through journaling, sometimes we can reveal what is going on for us that we actually might be surprised about, or having a conversation with somebody about it, a coach, for example, or a counsellor if you're in therapy. What's going on that every time I try and start something, it doesn't get finished? And it's about allowing ourselves to have a thought process about it, and really digging deep and being honest with ourselves about what's going on.
That's the hard thing, isn't it?
Because
being honest with ourselves.
Exactly. When you start doing that, and it takes great courage to do that, very often underneath all of those layers of conditioning and all the rest of it, we often find our inner child, our younger versions of ourselves, that feels not good enough. I'm not saying that's the case for everybody, but it's such a common thing. That the irony of it all is that we're all, probably most of us, have that belief somewhere in our psyche inside.
Yeah, and I know I do. And I work with people who never guess that they have these issues, and they do. People look at them and they think, wow, they've got it together. But they don't realise that behind the scenes it's because they're working so hard before showing up. So,
that's it. They're working hard before showing up. It's exactly right. And that hard work, eventually, it nips you in the bum, if that's an expression. It gets you in the end, because you can only do that for so long. And in the end, you think, oh, God, really, this is such hard work. Because we're taught that to be strong and keep going is the thing to do, to be accepted, to feel loved, and that and that we belong. And it's all a survival instinct at the end of the day, but it's fear driven. It is fear driven at the end. So we have to have that courage to be vulnerable, to go to those places.
Yes. And it feels uncomfortable,
barriers.
doesn't it? It's not easy. It feels uncomfortable.
Oh my word. It feels awful, because you could go places where you didn't want to go and you were scared to, because you might have a fantasy about what it means when you really start looking at yourself. But if you've got kids and family, job, you've got to hold it all together, so if I need to start looking at this stuff, it's going to really shake that bubble, and can I do that? Do I have time? And so all of those things kick in, which are other forms of self-sabotage. Oh, I can't look at myself right now. Too indulgent. I'm going to leave that. That's another form of, delaying what needs to happen. Yes. And then what happens, Luana, as we all know as well, is that quite often the universe, or whatever we want to call it, steps in. Something happens, redundancy, marriage breakup, divorce, an accident, because we didn't heed that voice to start working on ourselves. Something happens, and then we have no choice, do we? Then we have to take time off, and then what?
That's something that I've always believed, is that the universe, or whatever you want to call it, will keep nudging you and nudging you and nudging you until you listen, whatever that it takes.
That's it.
Wow. So what would be, if somebody's listening and they've never done any of this work before, where do they need to start? So
if I was working with somebody, the first thing I would ask them to think about is, how do they want their lives to look like, and where are they now? How does their life look like now? How do they want it to look like? They can draw it out, they can journal it, they can vision board how they would want to be. There's lots of tools and techniques to just do that.
And what if they're struggling to figure out what it is that they want? What if you're asking, well, what is it that you really want? And they come up blank.
Yes. Well, that's absolutely fine, because we don't want to give any pressure to anybody to come up with any answers. So it's about staying with where you're at right now. In that case, just stay with where you're at and see what emerges, what comes up. So do the work now with where you're at. So what's your life like now? Okay. And then asking the questions about, okay, you don't know how you would want, you don't know what goals you might want, but do you have an idea of how you don't want to be feeling then? And maybe, say, I don't want to feel like this. Okay, so that means that you want to feel like that. Does that resonate for you? Does that feel right? What are your words? And through that process of questioning, sort of getting closer and closer to what it is that they might want. Sometimes it's easier to know what you don't want, isn't it? And then there's a lot of, so at the beginning it will be, okay, we will look at what beliefs that you've got currently that perhaps are keeping you stuck. But that's a bit of a process in itself, because you might not know really all of the beliefs that you have that are keeping you stuck, or that they're keeping you stuck. So that all this stuff is kind of revealed in the end, when you realize, oh my God, I didn't really, in the end, a lot of people say, I didn't realize that, I have a should that says that I must, or I should be perfect, do things perfectly and get everything right, because otherwise I'm a failure. I'm a failure otherwise. Yeah. So we work on that level to really get to grips with what are those beliefs, and can we turn them around? So what does it mean that you're a failure? Are you really a failure? Is that really true? What would your life look like if you weren't a failure? And that could be scary prospect, because it's out of our comfort zones, as we call them, or our holding pattern. It's these patterns that we establish that keep us held and stuck.
Yes. So let's go through that again. So first of all, they're going to ask themselves, or they're going to, look at where they are right now.
No, absolutely.
And where they want to be.
Yes.
They're going to create that picture. Yes. Then they're going to look at their beliefs and what beliefs are holding them back. So once they pinpoint these beliefs that are holding them back, what do they do next?
So based on the beliefs that are holding them back, they would then start to allow themselves to think, have a bigger picture, widen the lens of what their life can look like. So if I didn't believe this and I believed that, what could my life look like? We'd do a lot of work. Well, I do a lot of work around self-compassion. So that would be the next thing, is to kind of maintain those new beliefs, or to start kind of drip feeding a new way of thinking and believing, that I am good enough, I am worthy.
And how do they do that? How do they drip feed that new way of thinking?
So I invite, again, journaling. I get people to write thoughts down. I get them to reverse the thinking around that. I get them to look at themselves in the mirror, to say they're good enough, to look in the eyes, to say every single day, I am good enough, I am worthy. I also use EFT technique, the EFT technique, to help reinforce those new messages and new beliefs about themselves.
And can you tell us more about that? How does EFT work?
So EFT, it works with what is at the moment. And the idea is that you tap in to your subconscious, a new way of thinking and new beliefs. And I've simplified it, massively, but it's kind of works on the meridian points, energy centers in the body, that by tapping on them, it activates these centers, which are all linked to different body areas. And in so doing, it calms the nervous system. And through calming our nervous system, stuff, it comes up for us to look at and heal. So that's the idea. And in that relaxed state, you can imprint a new belief about yourself much more easily than if you're stressed and trying to develop a new habit. So if you're trying to develop a new habit, a new routine for yourself, new beliefs, being in the calmest state possible while talking this stuff through is fantastic. It's a really, really good way of working. And it works, and it's amazing. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So they're going to look at where they are now.
Yes.
Compared to where they want to be. So
yes,
work that out, and then pinpoint those beliefs that are holding them back, and start thinking about the bigger picture with self-compassion. And you talked a bit about the tools and techniques that they can use.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. So some people really love... Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, go on. You carry on.
So some people really love EFT. Some people, for them, it's not how they want to work, and they might prefer to work in different creative ways, through drawing, through stones, through pebbles, all sorts of stuff, because I bring my counselling and coaching together to give people different options. Now
this is something that's unique about you, isn't it? Like you've got a background of a counsellor, you've got a ton of qualifications, and then you've brought all of that into your coaching. Fantastic. Fantastic. So is there anything else that you would like to add to that, or anything else you've got to say?
I think just the idea, really, just to reiterate what we've said really, if you're, whatever professional role you're in, when you come a cropper, to kind of stop and have a think, well, what's going on? What am I doing? What am I thinking? What are my beliefs that might be getting in the way, or keep, if there are repeat patterns that keep happening in my life, why is that? So I guess it's to develop a curiosity, a healthy curiosity about yourself, and see yourself as your project. That's what I like to tell people. You are now your new project. This is, if we say, what work do I need to do? All of this is the work that you need to do on yourself. So you are your new project. That's
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. And actually, I think you touched on something really important earlier as well, where, you were saying this technique works for some people, but other people might find something else more effective. It's not a one size fits all, is it?
Exactly.
We're all different, and we respond differently to different things. So I think that was a really important point as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Now, Sue, before we finish up, we have something very, very important to discuss. I have a really important job for you today.
Go for it, Luana.
You get to choose one business practice or idea, and you get the power today to throw it in the bin, never to be seen of, never to be heard of again. What's it going to be?
Magic wand. Fantastic, love it. Right, so my chosen thing to put into the bin would be business leaders, management, middle management, CEOs, whoever, or small businesses that employ people. What I would put in the bin is have a commitment. I would want them to have a commitment to working with people collaboratively, working with your staff collaboratively, and being authentic as possible. So what I throw in the bin is people who aren't like that, I guess. So people who don't respect their staff, who treat them like dirt, who lie and cover things up and that kind of stuff, and who maybe shouldn't be managers.
Yes,
big
completely.
But
oh yes, do you know? Before I came into entrepreneurship, I went through so many jobs in employment, and it's been a fantastic experience. I've worked in the best places with the best leaders, and I've worked with the worst leaders, and I've learned from everybody.
Exactly.
It makes such a difference, doesn't it? When you've got a good leader.
All the difference. It's all the difference. Yeah. Top down. Yeah.
I'm with you. Sue, they're in the bin.
In the bin.
I probably shouldn't admit this, but I just have this image of one of my old managers going in the bin.
They're in the bin. It's okay, they won't know. Yes. Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
Sue, where can people find you?
Right, so they can find me. You can go to my website where the email address is and all other information. That's www.sueorosa.com, which is just SUOROSA. And also come and visit me at the Facebook page, Sue Orosa.
Head on over there.
Come and say hello, please, because I've got a Facebook group as well to help with all of this personal development stuff, and it's great. It's a great space.
There we go. Get in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on. You've been absolutely brilliant.
Oh.
And to everyone listening or watching, thank you so much. And always remember, you weren't born to be ordinary, you were born to shine.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.